If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz, and this is...
Tobias.
Tobias, how was your weekend?
Oh, gosh. Uneventful, really.
No, it wasn't.
I mean, kinda. I had been so busy in June that I'd gotten way behind in like everything. And so I sat down on Friday and just like forced myself to vomit up like 2,000 plus words for this new fucking book project. Like literally just white knuckled my way through it. And then I felt better after that, you know. But otherwise, I mean, I don't know. I did some horse stuff. Like I went out to the barn that Emily rides horses at, and I made some new friends out there, and that was fun. But yeah, I mean, otherwise, it really has just been catching up from June. You know, I had 2 conferences, and then you add in like Father's Day and my niece graduating, and that was just a crazy, crazy month. So
Yeah, it was. No, same. I get it.
But you had a pretty cool weekend, I bet.
I did. I was going to say first, though, I'm glad you clarified what doing horse stuff meant, because that means different things for a lot of people. So
I want to know what's the weird version? Like, what's the gross one that people would be thinking of if I said I was doing horse stuff? Yeah.
I mean, probably kids are listening at this moment. So.
Okay. Well, kids, earmuffs.
Just gonna let your imagination run. Well, we talked about this last week. Do you remember Mr. Hands?
Oh yeah, gross.
There you go. Anyway, I did have a really busy weekend. I went to Monster Fest 2. Small Town Monsters puts on. Has been putting on Monster Fest now for the second year in a row. And it was great. It was of course it was great. I mean, we talk about this enough on the show. The big highlight of doing this stuff, yeah, it's fun to go and meet your fans. It's fun to go and make new fans, right? It's fun to go just talk to like-minded people and hear people's stories. But the biggest reason why I go, and the biggest reason why I went this year, is to see my friends. And it happened to fall on my birthday weekend. I'm now another year older. Officially.
Yay, happy birthday.
It's great. Thank you. But, I decided, I'm going to go spend it with people that like me.
It's a good way to go. Yeah.
Well, I usually do like a party every year, and, people get busy and everybody's an adult. And listen, I love a house party, and I think a lot of people do. I have an annual Halloween party every year at my house, and I think that it's a very intimate situation. Well, since I've been an adult and I've been having these parties, I've had exactly 2 where nobody showed up.
Oh, God.
And and it's devastating. And it's like, it's probably not personal, right? It's just a set of circumstances and people are busy, and that's totally understandable. But I didn't want to risk doing that to myself again. So I went to Monster Fest instead.
There you go. I mean, okay, when people don't show up, like, do they let you know that they're not going to show up? Because I would definitely tell somebody. I wouldn't just not show up.
Some people do. Some people will be like, yeah, I'll be there. And then they just don't show up. And it's like, okay, well.
That's fucking bullshit.
It's
like,
shitty.
Those people are bad and they should feel bad.
Yeah, it's really terrible. And it's like, really? I don't, usually, so, okay, I lied. So the 2 parties, not nobody showed up. 1 person showed up at each. So I did end up having, people, and both times we just made the most of it. Instead of sitting around at my house, though, we went out and drank,
Sure.
whatever. But yeah, I mean, but you're sitting around until like 10, 11 o'clock at night because other people said they were going to show up and then they're not there yet. You're like, are they coming? Are they not? So I'm not doing the birthday party thing anymore. I'm just going to make trips of it. And, this year again, it just so happened to fall on Monster Fest weekend. And I was like, well, perfect. That'll be great. So I really wasn't there. I mean, truth be told, like, you know how it is working an event. And of course I worked my booth or whatever. But like, I really wasn't pressing myself to work too hard because
Hmm.
it was for me, you know?
Sure.
So, I got to enjoy it a little bit. Um, but yeah, I mean, it usually Monster Fest is a great event for to get the most people that you're friends with together. I feel like in one spot. You know, you'll have these different events, and sometimes certain people can't go, or they're too far away, they can't make it. Small Town Monsters does a great job having a very eclectic group of individuals speaking and stuff like that. That they will fly in. They treat their speakers really well. I guess I'll say that much.
Hmm.
Compared to like other events where it's like, oh, well, if I talk to the event organizers and I'm like, hey, it'd be great to have Tobias Whalen. Well, they can't afford you, so you won't be there. Um,
Right.
but something like this, they do actually make sure that people are together in one space. And so you'll
That's
get
great.
people from like, Oregon and Texas and, all over the country rather than just the general Midwest that you always see at these events. So it is
Oh,
nice.
sure.
It's
Well, I
nice to
saw,
see.
I saw a bunch of my buddies were going to be there, and that's every year so far. It's a lot of my friends going to speak and stuff. The one big regret I would have about this year, because I haven't been able to go either year yet, is Ryan was there, and
Yeah.
he already lived far away, and then he moved even farther away. And so, like, the chances of being able to hang out with that guy in person are like slim to none. So
Right.
that would have been like the big one for me. I'm sure I'll have another opportunity, to hang out in person. But he lives all the way in Scotland now, so it's like holy shit,
Does he
right?
really? I
Oh
didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. Well, he lived in New York, and then he moved out to Scotland. And he does some traveling because he's got that TV show he's shooting now, and whatever. But yeah, it's still like he lives super far away. So
Wow. I didn't realize that. Yeah, he was so I had never met him, yet because he's not here, Again,
yeah,
he's just not at these events and so I'd never actually gotten the time to actually, meet each other and he was like on my radar, right, to go talk to finally. Because we've been following each other on social media forever. And I still didn't get to talk to him until Sunday morning when he's got a shit and he's getting ready to go off to his shuttle. It was just a quick, hi, it's nice to finally meet you.
oh no, yeah, we were at oh god, what the fuck was this called? It was one of those events that never had a second event. I think it was last year, and I was down in Missouri, and it was me and Emily, of course, and Ryan was there, and Micah Hanks and Josh Kutchin and Ken Gerhard, and it wasn't that busy, and so we like one like we really got a chance to hang out because of that, but then two,
Yeah.
the event itself wanted us to do all of this like meet and greet stuff, so we're being shuttled around to like different bars and like
Oh, that's
there's like
kind
a
of neat.
party and stuff that you kind of were obligated to go to, and so like they forced everybody to hang out, and I was like, well, this is great because I never see any of these fucking guys you
Yeah.
know
That's actually sounds really neat. Well, and that's something about it is that, the attendants did awesome. And you want the attendants to do awesome because you want to make money, right?
oh
But at
yeah.
the same time, if it's busy, then you're fucking beat by the end of it. Like, and it's hard to be able to have the energy to go hang out with your friends, so, or, just talk to these people. So, especially when you're like, just finally kind of meeting someone in person for the FaceTime that works, for the first time works in this field. Um, you're just too exhausted to really have a conversation, but you both get it, right?
Oh
You're like,
sure.
totally understand. We'll just like, I don't know, fucking here's my number, call me. We'll have a conversation or something sometime, and that's kind of how these things go. But yeah, Ryan, I'd never met him before. That was the first time I got to meet him. Couple other, new people that I just never officially met. Jim Harold, even though he was there at Monster Fest last year, I never even we just never got the chance to, be like, oh, hey, Jim, I'm Ashley Hilton, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, sure. I mean,
Uh,
I've done his show several times, but yeah, I've never been able to meet Jim in person. He's a super nice guy just from talking to him.
he is so nice. Yeah, he's so heckin' nice.
But
Yeah, I think, of course, the highlight of my weekend was just, being sang happy birthday by these super manly men repeatedly. The morning of Saturday morning, Lyle Blackburn comes up to me and sings happy birthday. It was super wholesome. And different people, of course. I just thought it just, I don't know, tickled me in a way. It was fun.
Oh, it's great. Yeah, Lyle's a good guy.
He is, yeah. No, he's a good dude. I didn't get to, he's got this girlfriend. I didn't get to meet her. I really didn't get to talk to Lyle, and it kind of sucks because we both end up just talking to everybody else the whole time. That's how it gets. And then, like, I guess after Monster Fest, there was like a bunch of people were going on some like ghost hunt or something at the theater there. And they asked if I wanted to go, and I was like, I don't want to work all day and then go work some more. Like,
I
I'm
would
gonna
ask
go drink.
who else is going.
It didn't. It was. I mean, people that I liked, I guess, but the people that weren't, there was also people that I liked that weren't going. So I was like, nah.
Right. When we did the Great Lakes Paracon last year, like Lyle was there, and I don't know, like they kind of volunteered us to take shifts doing this paranormal investigation, which, let's face it, was just fucking paranormal tourism. There wasn't a lot of actual investigating going. You just
Yeah.
kind of had a station and people would come past, and then you'd be like, I don't know, you want to listen to the spirit box? I don't, ghosts don't perform on demand. I don't know what to fucking tell you right now. But Lyle came and he didn't know what to do because he's not a ghost guy, right? And that was an experience that was just a lot of fun because I don't think he knew what to expect. And I don't remember if we talked about it afterwards or not, because I want to hear his kind of unfiltered opinion of it. But I think we all know where I stand on paranormal tourism.
Right. I mean, I think it also, word kind of not just really got out to people that were attending, but like I know some of the volunteers and stuff for the event were going, and it just seemed like a crowd, and I was just like, I want to go get drunk. That sounds cooler to me. Let's go drink. So that's what I did, and I think some people that I knew were going actually left the investigation early because there was just too many people, and I'm like, yeah.
Oh, it gets to be a clusterfuck fast.
Yeah, I'm like,
real
no,
fast,
thank you.
because you lose control of people, and then even if there is some sort of legitimate phenomenon, and I'm not saying that there can't be. I've
Sure.
been on organized investigations like that, where you'll be speaking at an event and they'll want you to come to the investigation. And I've experienced really weird shit, but it's tough because you get a lot of people and it's like herding cats. And so you don't know how much your data is being corrupted by people just running around playing fucking grab ass the whole time. So.
Yeah, pretty much. And, I just I mean, we'll get into it. I mean, honestly, just ghost hunting it's not like I'll do it and I'll do it leisurely. It's just not on the top of my list. And, it's something that I might do in my spare time, kind of. But I don't really do a ton of. It's something I used to do a lot of, but that was more so because we were bored kids in Ohio with nothing else to do. So,
yeah, fair.
But anyway, well, what we were going to do on the way home, so on the drive up, I noticed a peculiar sign along the way. And so I was like, well, we got to stop there. I didn't want to stop on the way up because we're already kind of late, but on the way back, definitely would have stopped there. It's Charles Mill Lake, home of the Charles Mill Lake Monster, which my big thing in this community is just the most obscure shit that you'll ever find. And that's definitely one of them. It was pretty much a couple of teenagers were out. It's like a big reservoir, and they're out this lake and they see this creature come out of the water. It kind of looks like, it's kind of like a gill man, sort of, except it had like a weird circle mouth on it. It was very strange. They run to the police. They report it to them. The police come back and they found like webbed footprints all over like the beach there. So I was like, well, let's go check that out. I've never been to Charles Mill Lake. I didn't realize how close it was to me because I'm only 3 hours from Canton, where Monster Fest was. It's about 2 hours from where I'm at.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, for Charles Mill Lake. Well, we get there on Sunday, and you have to fucking pay to go in. And I was like, oh, okay. Boo. Right. I was like,
to go to a lake?
Yeah. Right.
Fuck Ohio.
Right. I'm like, we've got a bunch of them everywhere, and I've been to them, and they're like lakes with like beaches, and stuff, and like people go swimming in them, and that's fine. But like, I've never had to pay to go to one before.
Yeah. Is it a public beach?
Yeah.
And they want you to. That sounds all fucked up. I don't get that.
And I was like, well, we'll just come back like during the fall, and then it's not hot anyway. Nobody's fucking here, so don't have to pay then.
Right.
So we fucking. It was like, I mean, it was $10. And it's not like $10 is gonna make or break me, but like if it were like $2, I'd have been like, oh, okay, $10. I'm like, let's just go home. So, so we'll be back. More on the Charles Mill Lake Monster investigation. Well, and then I can actually like bring shit to like really investigate the area. Will I find anything? Probably not. But
yeah, you probably don't want to go
know.
on like a really nice day when it's 85 degrees
Right.
out and the beach is packed.
Yeah. Right. So if we go in the fall, they'll close. I mean, it won't be open in the fall. Like the beach, it'll be open. You can go, but like the beach part, like won't be touristy. People can't swim during the fall, so we'll go then, and it'll be great. It'll be a great time. We'll go find us a gill man. So anyway, so no, it was fun. Of course, it was a great. It's a great opportunity to network, and it's a great opportunity to hang out with your weirdo friends. And so some people, from Monster Fest is probably listening to the show. We did something. I guess I'm not going to say that part. Never mind.
Oh, secrets.
We did something secret. I will. It's actually pretty neat. I'll tell you off air. But I just have a feeling that there's going to be some new listeners from this event. So welcome to the show.
Still anxiously awaiting my invite. At some point, it's got to happen.
I'll just stow you away in my bag next time or whatever. And, but no, I feel you. We'll see. Of course they didn't, sometimes if it's going to happen again or not. Who knows? Nothing yet. So
right.
we'll anxiously wait it out and see what happens. But yeah, that was my weekend. That was
nice.
It.
Very good.
Now I do have a couple of newses here. I could have had a lot more. There's actually a lot going on this week in the news. I'm like, God damn it. The weekend usually is when I'll sit down and actually compile this stuff. And I'm like, the one fucking weekend I'm not here. So it's going to be a lot of things happening in weird news, but that's fine. So I got a couple things to go over. The one thing I just kind of want to touch on for a minute, we touched on it last week and about a month prior to that, of course, the monoliths, more and more just keep popping up again. This is a big trend.
Ugh.
I'm not going to report on them every single week. And, but there have been more, and that's really all you need to know about it. We already talked about it last week. The monoliths what are they, Tobias?
Fucking art installations. It's the same goddamn thing we saw out of that bored fucking pandemic hobby in 2020 when the first one showed up in Utah. It's not anything to do with aliens. It's not anything weird. It's just fucking people with like some metal like fabricating tools in their garage, making fucking monoliths and then putting them up out in isolated areas that are still totally fucking accessible to normal people, which is how they're placed and then also how they're seen. Yeah. It's like the least weird thing I've ever heard. I don't even know how it fucking qualifies as Fortean. Drives me a little nuts.
And it's not. I agree. It's not Fortean. Is it like a weird little Easter egg hunt? Sure. Is it kind of fun to go out and search for monoliths? I guess so. If that's how you want to spend your time, that's okay. But stop sending me the monolith stories unless there's something new to it, right? Unless a fucking beam of light starts entering out of the top of these things and there's a fucking weird alien language on the side of it. Like, just let's, I don't care.
Are they made of a material that is unknown to man? No, it's normal fucking sheet metal. Like, there's nothing weird about it. Like, the process of their creation is not weird. Their appearances and disappearances are not weird. We have footage of people coming and taking one down in Utah from several years ago when this whole thing started because it was just an art installation and they came back to get their shit. Yeah. And it wasn't fucking aliens.
Yeah, right. So, that's it. That's all I wanted to say about it. I kind of started writing up the details of the most recent one that was found, and I'm just like, why? There's just going to be 3 more next week, And
the worst fucking part is everybody wants it to be a mystery. Like people I know, friends of mine, people I respect. Everybody loves a mystery. They want it to be a mystery, and so they humor this shit. And the danger is that humoring it drowns out actual legitimate phenomena that we should be paying attention to. there's enough cool stuff for us to spend our attention on, to invest our fucking intent, like our interest in, that we don't need to waste our time with obvious fake fucking art installations. Like, stop it.
Yep. That's where we're at with it. So so you won't hear it from me. I highly doubt Tobias is going to write about them on the Singular Fortean Society. Well, you might,
I
just
did
to
it
say.
once when they first started, and then I was like, oh, this is fucking fake.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, now you know, I told everybody, so everybody else should know.
Now
No
we all know.
excuses.
We're all on the same page here. At least we should be. So, like I said, if that's your thing and you want to go out and go on a hike and see if you find a monolith, or go put one up and see if someone finds it, like I said, it's like a cool Easter egg hunt, but it's not anomalous.
Oh, it's like geocaching or whatever.
It
Like,
is.
that's a cool hobby, but it's not paranormal.
Right. Yeah, it is. It is. So we'll dive right into the next one, which I'm just gonna be honest, Tobias. I was kind of hoping that you would enlighten me a little bit more about your weekend, because I think that you're directly responsible for something that
I hope
happened
so.
in the news. So, Alton, Illinois, you've heard of that place, right?
Yeah, it rings a bell.
You were just there, weren't you?
Yeah, a couple weeks
you
ago.
were.
Haunted America.
Well, I mean, mysteriously on June 29th, a week after you had been there, there was a giant sinkhole that opened up at the Gordon Moore Park.
Oh God, I hope is everybody okay? I hope
everybody's okay, and no fatalities. It opened up. So I mean, your plan failed. Sorry, but
yeah, right. That was my super villain plot.
Right.
I was holding the city hostage, for ransom, or I was going to create sinkholes.
But a big old sinkhole opened up there at the park, right on the soccer field. The sinkhole ended up being 100 foot wide and 30 feet deep. So, like, this is a massive, massive sinkhole. I remember when that was kind of the hot new thing on the internet for a while, right? Where, like, all the sinkholes that were popping up all over the place. Nobody really talks about them anymore. They definitely still happen. This one was likely caused by local limestone mining that they're doing in the area. I'm assuming not immediately underneath the park, but, of course, if you're digging a hole somewhere, miles away, it can affect things.
Well, they're
either way.
right on the fucking Mississippi, like right on it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, you can see the Mississippi from downtown. Like, it's literally right there. It is.
Oh, so you can see like all the mining shit where they're doing all that.
Yeah, if you're, with all of the if you're creating big pockets, like, water is going to get in there. It's going to fucking erode. Like, if you go see the Piasa bird mural, which is amazing, and everybody should go see that if you're ever in Alton. You can see, like, there's these huge, like sandstone caverns there, which are formed by, like, natural erosion. But if you can picture one of those, like, being underground, it's not difficult to visualize that shit collapsing into a sinkhole. So, yeah.
Well, and they had kept mentioning, I guess I kind of thought that was strange, because the one news article I read about kept mentioning like an incident that happened in 2013 in Mississippi, where there was a fatality, where a sinkhole opened up and a guy's house collapsed into it.
That shit's fucking terrifying.
He was in it, right? And it's crazy because it can just happen. Like, it fucking sucks.
Oh yeah. Well, it's usually like, you have to live in a specific geographic area that is part of that. Technically, it could happen anywhere, but it's unlikely to happen in, like, Wisconsin, for instance. We don't get a ton of, like, giant dangerous sinkholes because we don't have. Well, depending on where you are, we don't necessarily have the same kind of natural caverns as, say, like a Florida or Mississippi or something, where you hear about stuff like that happening more often.
Not a big mining state either, I'm assuming.
Right.
Wisconsin.
Yeah, you got to go way up north, and even then, it's probably not as much the kind of mining that people would be thinking of that would cause something like that.
Wow, very. I mean, it's terribly shitty. But thank God nobody was hurt. That could have been any given day. I mean, what do you do about that at that point? Like, do you, because when we were kind of talking off the air, I think last week, about tornadoes a little bit, and about
Mm.
like moving to these towns with these famous tornadoes, how like, well, it's kind of better if you do, because what's the chances of it happening twice? Like,
I mean,
do you just
right?
fill the field back up and let the kids play soccer on it, and you're like, what are the chances of it happening again?
I guess. I mean, what else can you do? Really? If you
Yeah.
fill it all in with dirt? I mean, I guess it depends on like the size of the cavern that collapsed, if like if there's room in there where if you put a bunch of dirt and shit in there, it's just going to, you know, still let that dirt wash away because whatever was eroding it in the first place is just going to continue. Then no. I mean, I imagine there are certain circumstances where you just got to fence that shit off and be like, well, nobody can go in there now. So,
Yeah. I mean, well, it just, my theory still stands that, and I loved it so much that I put it on a T-shirt. The Earth is alive, and it's a serial killer. Like, it wants us dead. It
sure.
will just kill us, just because it does, and there's just not a whole lot we can do about it,
Yeah. I
except for
mean,
maybe not pissing it off more by drilling even more holes into it. But we got to live too, I guess. You know what? What are you gonna do?
yeah, well, sure, fair. I mean, yeah, existence can be a bleak, brutal, uncaring affair. So, shit, watch out for sinkholes, I guess.
Watch out! Watch out for that Mother Nature. She's out to get you. She's bloodthirsty. Um, On to my next. This is actually the beginning of an ongoing investigation. Of course, it is. But there's a new Mothman sighting that just
Gosh,
happened out out in Chicago, and this is kind of a big one. So I was sent a video of a person by the name of Laura Jane Grace, who happens to be the lead singer of the band Against Me. And she made a reel on Instagram stating that she believes she saw the Chicago Mothman. She had seen multiple birds. She's outside. She had seen multiple birds flying in a type of formation. And one quote unquote bird, seemed to be much larger than the others. And she kind of gave, a brief description of it. I did reach out to her. Now, granted, she has more followers and stuff than I do. I don't know if she'll ever see my message, but I'm
sure,
curious to kind of sit down and have a talk with her. I think you should reach out to her as well, um, and we should try to get her, firsthand, experience of it and the details of what happened. Now, she did say that she doesn't live very far from the Chicago O'Hare Airport. I did, read some of the comments of what some people were saying, and they were like, "Oh, people have been seeing it at the airport," and she's like, "Oh, that makes sense because I live really close to there." So I'd be interested to figure out where exactly, and
sure.
just more information on it. So
The
super
problem
interesting.
with the fucking internet, and the reason that I had to write my first book, The Lake Michigan Mothman High Strangeness in the Midwest, is because what happens is somebody will have some kind of anomalous experience, right? And then they'll go online and share it. And then a bunch of fucking people who think they have some idea of what has happened or what is going on, but really have no fucking clue,
Right.
will pipe up and share their, fucking expertise or whatever. And I can only imagine the bullshit that this person must have been inundated
Yeah.
with by people who think they know a fucking thing about what has or has not happened at O'Hare International Airport.
Yep. Yep. Well, and that's what makes it, and that's what I'm saying. I don't know if I'll even get a response from this person, because imagine what their inbox is looking like right now with all the
Yeah,
crazy shit and how crazy it looks. And so, it makes it frustrating to actually, get, an actual report out of it. It
oh, sure. Well,
sucks.
it's going to be that, and then it's going to be people who desperately want their 15 minutes of fame.
Yeah.
They think that this is something that will launch their career in the paranormal or something, and so they're going to try to scoop it or or whatever. Find a way to make it about themselves. Find a way to include themselves in the fucking narrative. And it's just a fucking mess. It's
Yeah.
just a mess.
Yep.
Um,
So
so yeah, we
we'll see
will.
what comes of it.
Yeah, we will see. I've got. I still can't talk about it a ton, but I've got a pretty cool project coming out later this month, and my hope is that when people have these kinds of experiences, you know, this this project ideally will get the word out, and they'll know who to get a hold of. They'll
Right.
know maybe what to do, know that somebody is actually looking into this. And so anytime I think you have that kind of opportunity to um, share just sort of the facts of a phenomenon, and give people an idea of sort of who's looking into it, and a contact for them to go to is great. Because yeah, again, otherwise you have people posting their sightings online, and it's not super helpful, to get the crowd's opinion on it, when most of their opinions are based on lies and half truths that
Right.
they've seen and probably don't remember right anyway.
Yeah. Well, and so when we were getting ready to go to to actually attend the festival on Saturday morning, the person that I went with was my best friend. It was her house that I saw the Mothman at. She knows what I do. Yeah, she knows. Yeah, she knows what I do, and she listens to the show. But in order to kind of get in the mood of like Monster Fest, I just kind of I need background noise. So in the hotel, I put on the Mothman of Point Pleasant Small Town Monsters documentary. And, I'm getting ready and she's kind of listening to it. And she's like, I didn't realize like all this because, it's talking about like the Men in Black and it's got like the actual, witnesses that are talking about their encounters. And she's like, I had no idea that all of that was a part of this. I
Right.
was like, right, exactly. Nobody does. And that's the fucking problem. They just have a snippet of it. I didn't dig too deep in the comments on the actual reel itself because I just get mad. It's the same reason why, like, I won't, if somebody does like a Mothman YouTube video or even a podcast episode, like I won't listen to it
No.
because I already know they got it wrong.
Most of the time. Yeah. Like, it's not out of ego
No.
that I have volunteered myself for so many documentaries and TV projects and, all of this other stuff. It's because I really believe, I really, really do believe that it's important that somebody keep all this shit straight, and that somebody put themselves out there as a trustworthy source for
Yeah.
people to reach out to if shit like this happens, because you
Yeah.
can't just go to the fucking internet. As
Right.
much as we would love the internet to be this utopian ideal of, shared free information and not just a giant cesspit of misinformation and bullshit, it very much is the latter. So
Right. Well, and you'll see people. I mean, you'll of course like when you get stuff like that, you'll see people like recommend. They'll be like, "Oh, you should reach out to so and so," and like it's frustrating because like that they don't know their shit. I'm not gonna name names, but like you know what I mean. Like you're like,
right.
that's the last person you should be reaching out to. And again, it's not an ego thing. It's just it's just unfortunate. I mean, people get on this fucking soapbox about how like, oh, there's no professionals or experts in this field. I disagree with that. And what I mean by that is that nobody is the authority to say what this stuff is definitively. However, you have people that dedicate every single waking moment of their time in their lives to researching a specific topic. Well, then I would say that person is an expert on that topic,
Sure.
compared to some others.
Of course. I mean, I am a legitimate expert on the Midwest Mothman sighting so far. And by that I mean I am a legitimate expert on the investigation of those
Right.
sightings. So I know what people have reported. I know when they reported it. I know what went into investigating it, and almost nobody else does. And again, like, that's not being arrogant. That's the fucking truth. Like,
Right.
almost nobody else does. And so, yeah, you might have your favorite paranormal celebrity and it's not me or whatever. And so that's who you recommend. You know, you say, oh, you should reach out to this person or that person. But like you said, that's not helpful if that person isn't a part of this. And I got to tell you, 9 times out of 10, it's somebody I know, and they will refer it to me anyway. They'll say, "Hey, I just had this weird case, but it sounds like something that falls directly in your wheelhouse. Do you want to do you want me to put you in contact with this witness or whatever?" So I guess most of that shit ends up getting funneled to me anyway. It's just I happen to know, mostly because of the fucking Lake Michigan Mothman stuff, that there are definitely people out there, and their whole deal is kind of trying to scoop these cases to
Yeah.
make a name for themselves, and it's not helpful. I get it. I get why they do it. They're trying to break into the entertainment industry, basically, and that shit's tough. So you got to do what you got to do. But from like a research and investigation standpoint, it's not helpful.
No, absolutely. I agree. And, it's frustrating. And you've got people, we've got people that we know and trust who have their own expertise in things, right? So like, I'll get a sighting of something I'm unfamiliar with, and I will look for, through my networks and be like, well, who do I know that's really good at this particular topic? And I'll reach out to them,
Right.
and that's what this community should be.
It should. It should.
Yeah.
I've received weird cases, not necessarily Mothman stuff, but like, if you think of what people might conceive of as like the big names in cryptozoology, I mean, a lot of those people are my friends.
Right.
And if they get a weird case that they think would be better suited to what I do than necessarily what they do, they send it to me. And that's how it should work. And I do the same thing where if I know, like say somebody has reached out to me in a state that I don't live in and I don't want to go to, and I know somebody who lives in that state, I'll say, well, I know somebody local to you that I think could help you more than I can from
Yeah.
Wisconsin. So here you go.
Yeah. And well, you've done that with me. So you do that. I can vouch that you do that.
Right.
And, whereas like, yes, I think that you really need to be the one to reach out to this person because you can actually go talk to them, better than I can, so
It's a shorter drive for me, for sure.
it's a better, well, just the topic in general, that's more your wheelhouse. I mean, the description of it was kind of strange, and they reported it having this weird long tail, and that to me that's not Mothman.
It's probably a bird, but yeah.
Probably, and it was a bird, right? I mean, at the end of the day, let's be honest, how many times is it a bird? A lot.
Daytime sightings, usually.
Usually a bird.
If it's a daytime sighting, yeah, like that just is what it is. Most of them are demonstrably birds.
Right. So, I mean, but that's just, I mean, that's how it is. And I'm not upset. I want more people to work on this with me because I'm one person and I can't do it all.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, the only time I get annoyed is when I know it's somebody who tries to exclude me from my own investigation because they see attention as a zero-sum game and they can't risk me getting more attention for it because they want the attention because they're trying to become famous.
Right. It's just people that suck. I understand.
Basically. So. Yeah. And I mean, Chicago's a big market. So you can only imagine how many people like that are out there trying to make a name for themselves with no idea how. And all they know is what they've seen on television. So.
Yep. So we'll see if this goes anywhere. If either of us are able to make contact with this person and have a better understanding of what happened and an actual report of what went down. Who knows? Did they see the Chicago moth? They might have. They might have. Are they just doing it because it's kind of fun and they want to get involved? They might have. Was it just a bird? Who knows? But I'd like to talk with this person and figure it out. So
yeah, definitely. Definitely. And of course, you never know, like you said, you never know with public figures,
right?
If it's ever, if they're just fucking around for the clicks, basically.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. We'll see. People like when public figures come forward with this type of stuff. And, I understand it. Of course, especially if it's somebody that you're excited. Oh, they've seen something weird too. That's great. But these are becoming increasingly popular topics. So we'll
Right.
see. At minimum, at least it has shown some light somewhere on a larger platform about the Chicago Mothman. So, I mean, it's, more growth for the topic in and of itself, which is always fun
Sure.
and interesting. So,
Yeah, that is always great. Like I said, I've got a couple projects coming up that are gonna, I think, help with that quite a bit. And so hopefully going forward, when stuff like this happens, they'll be big enough, they'll be popular enough that enough people will see them that they'll know what to do next
yeah,
time this happens.
yeah,
So
absolutely. Well, my last news. So I told you I had a lot of news this
so
week.
many new. I have a single news, but we'll
Slacking
get
on the
there.
news. But no, my last news for the week. This is more. Thought this was super interesting. So there is apparently a newer streaming service that came out recently. It's called The Network, and it is currently filming a show, like a reality type of show, like a contest type of show, where they are challenging flat earthers to prove to a panel of experts that the Earth is flat. Okay, so
Oh,
they are providing the flat earthers about $50,000 in resources in order to prove their point. There is some type of grand prize. I'm not sure what it is. They haven't announced what it is. Maybe when they premiere the show they will. But it's not set to premiere until December. And are they gonna do it? Well, no, because the Earth is round.
I
But
mean, obviously no.
so I'm curious what they're teasing the grand prize to be, because it's got to be something like as unrealistic, right? I mean, because they're not going to
Right.
get it anyway. But
Totally.
I love that. I just, and I guess maybe that kind of makes me a bitch. I'm not sure, but like I fucking can't wait to watch these flat earthers get fucking drug on the show.
There are enough people who believe in the flat earth, or at least say that they do. I don't know how many of them are just fucking grifters, right? But anyway, they are not shy about sharing their beliefs. So I don't think we have to feel bad.
No.
If you give them the rope, whether or not they hang themselves with it is up to them. So
Yeah.
we don't need to feel bad.
Yeah, and I love that they're being put on the spot, and they're like, okay, then fucking prove it.
Yeah.
Like, I hope one of them like gets a boat, right, and they're told to go out to the fucking ice wall, and then they never do.
The unfortunate reality is when people actually try to do stuff like that, they just die.
That's
You
very
can't
true.
just take a boat to the fucking Antarctic if you don't know what you're doing. You're just gonna die.
That's a good point. But I don't get into like reality TV at all. I don't get into the paranormal, shows at all.
Oh fuck
I'm
no.
I'm gonna watch this one.
Okay.
So, like I said, it comes out December on something called The Network. I can't vouch for whatever else it is they show. I've never even heard of the streaming service before.
No.
Um, this is an original show done by them, though. So
Okay.
you will only be able to find it there. So that'll be fun.
Well, good for them. It's about time somebody really dug into this flat Earth mystery. Ooh.
I hope they all get a consolation prize, and it's humble pie. A nice home baked humble pie. So that's my news. That's what I got
Sure.
for you.
Okay. Well, that's great. That's some excellent newsing. All right, I have my one news, and this is a sighting report that came to me directly. So this is from a witness who wanted to report multiple sightings of anomalous orange orbs in Arizona. So if
Ooh.
you remember, I had that reports from the void a few
Ooh.
weeks ago about the uh, homeless person living in the Arizona desert who wanted to report all of these weird sightings of anomalous glowing orbs, right? And so this person saw that and was thus inspired to reach out directly. And so she agreed to, well, she asked to be referred to as Mars, which I think is a nickname. I know her real name,
Sure.
and I asked her if I could use it. She's like, well, people call me Mars. And I was like, fine, Mars it is, because I do not care how people prefer to be referred to in articles, right? So, but she had two weird glowing orb sightings in approximately the same area, like very, very close to where this other person, whose case I was never able to investigate properly, said that they had had their sighting. So it's something of a corroboration of that previous sighting report that we couldn't really investigate that much, which is why I do reports from the void. Is you never know where that stuff is going to lead. I always say up front, hey, I don't know if this is true or not because I was never able to really investigate it with this person. But, throwing it out there leads to more credible stuff because I was able to interview this person. And so, this is a much, much better investigated report. So anyway, on to the actual sighting. So the first one, she said, one late evening, me and my family were driving back from camping and had to pass through Florence. So again, that's Florence, Arizona. While on the highway at about 10 p.m., I want to say December of 2011 or 2012, I experienced my first UFO sighting. A series of flashing or perhaps an object spinning amber lights appeared over the sky towards the northeast, almost Superstition Mountain area, which I got to say is a great name for a mountain range. Like literally, like the Superstition Mountains are a thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she said it started low in the sky and started off very slow. There were a few clouds in the sky, and you could see their glow illuminate the clouds for a brief second before appearing higher in the sky. She says the sky about 100 times, and that's how you know it's real, because if I were to write this, I would not have done that. That drives me nuts. Anyway.
Okay.
So my back to the actual report. So she says, yeah. So you could see their glow illuminate the clouds for a brief second before appearing higher in the sky, then darting to the right and becoming bigger before going black and showing up as barely a speck in the sky again, but further west this time. I was only a kid then, around 12. I'd gotten out my camera and started to record. However, my camera ended up dying before I could film the entirety. Looking back at it, I did manage to get about one frame of a glowing orb in the sky, but it was so far away that I didn't bother to save or export it. My entire family was freaking out, and as I passed a few parking lots, there were people looking towards the sky with cameras, and some cars pulled over to the side. I believe it was even broadcast on the news a week later. Now, I did look. I couldn't find any news reports from that time talking about these lights in the sky. Doesn't mean that some local news didn't report on it. I wasn't able to find it. So fast forward to May 15th, 2023 at around 8 p.m. Now she says, I was driving towards Gold Canyon, headed east on US 60. At around 7:50 p.m., I see a large orange flash in the clouds close to the horizon, and thinking it could have been a fire again in the Superstitions, I kept my eye on the area. A few minutes passed, and there it was, the same pattern of either something spinning/rotating in the sky or moving across it with a slow strobe pattern. Except this time it was much bigger and closer than I had seen it years ago, and this time it seemed almost directly over the Peralta Trail area or close to it. I felt as if I knew what I was looking at was the same thing I had seen as a kid, just based off how the soft amber glow moved in the sky. It was identical. Its pattern was similar, moving in the sky with no real sense of exact destination, but just a whole lot closer this time. I reached for my phone, and it went away. I hit record, and it popped up again briefly, and I was able to take a small 2-second clip before disappearing and not coming back for the hours I spent looking across the night sky. And so she goes on a little bit to talk about her overall interest in this phenomenon and how this has resulted in her having just a really heavy interest in wanting to look at the sky and do sky watching and sort of see if she ever sees anything like this again. And so, I was able to correspond with her. And, I got a few more details, and she was willing to send me all of her still images and the very short video. And so I put those all in this article that I published on our website. And so they're not spectacular, although nothing I will say about this is meant to disparage this witness. She has been nothing but forthright, and quite frankly, I have nothing but respect for her. And I don't want anybody to think otherwise. But as she freely admits, like the photographs themselves are not super spectacular. The video is very short, but you can definitely see these lights. And furthermore, when I blew the light up, like it very clearly is a series of lights, and they don't look like normal aircraft like safety lights like you would see. They're not red, green, and blue or anything like that. They very much appear to be the amber colored orbs that she described seeing. So pretty interesting stuff. I always, like I said, I always love seeing this kind of corroboration, which is why I publish these stories the way that I do, to see if other people will be willing to come forward. So hopefully somebody will see this, or somebody is listening and they have had a similar sighting. If you've seen something unusual in the sky, any kind of craft or anomalous light or any kind of weird experience, of course, you can always reach out to us here on Wednesdays We Talk Weird, or go to the Sing of the Fortean Society. But did you have a chance? I meant to send this to you and I fucking forgot. And so I don't know if you bothered to check the website. You were busy, so it's not a big deal. But I don't know if did you get a chance to see this or no?
I did just now.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, I'm very long-winded, so you should have an opportunity to go look it up.
While you were reading it out. Yeah, taking a look. I mean, I think it is. It's awesome that there's some type of photographic video evidence of what's going on here. You don't usually get that, so good
Right.
on her for having the thought to do that. To begin with, and is it is it Patterson Gimlin film quality? No, it's not. But it's again, good on her for doing it. What do I think about it? I don't. I find it really interesting that it's orange orbs again. I would be interested to know kind of what what that follow up looks like. Again, I say that every time. I think that is important to cases of high strangeness. I think the follow up tells us a lot more. We're just not really doing our due diligence and following up. Not that you don't, but just in general,
Sure.
as a whole. How close is it to that area where you had the other report the couple weeks back?
It's like the same area. So one of
Interesting.
the specific geographic locations that is referenced by that reports from the void witness is the Peralta Trail. And so US 60, where she had her second sighting, where she was able to get this video and everything, it goes right past there. And when we were talking about it, she said that she thought the lights were almost directly over Peralta Trail. And so that is literally one of the areas, because that previous witness had said that he had seen things in multiple areas, and he
Right.
had kind of moved around. He lives in the desert, so I don't know what his life is like, but yeah, so literally the exact same location
Hmm.
as one of the locations that he had said he had seen weird stuff. And it's interesting too, because she mentioned thinking that it must have been directly over Peralta Trail, and so from her vantage point, the phenomenon that she was witnessing looked to be maybe like 3 centimeters in diameter. Now it's not literally 3 centimeters, but
Hmm.
from like that's its relative size as it appeared to her. And so if you extrapolate from that and the distance to Peralta Trail, which is about 5 kilometers away from US 60, then you can guess, like, at the maximum, if the lights were exactly where she thought maybe they could have been up to like 150 meters in diameter. Now, I don't, before anybody, says anything, look, we don't have good enough data for me to say definitively how big the lights actually were. All I'm saying is, if they were floating above Peralta Trail, and they appeared to be 3 centimeters from her perspective, then they could have been up to 150 meters. I can't say that definitively, but it is interesting to think about. I mean, none of us were there, so we don't really know what exactly she experienced, and so that's the only real data we have to work from.
I encourage the listeners, of course, hop on Singular 40th Society and check out don't just look at the picture of it, look at the video. When you look at the picture, if you were just looking at like the still image from the video, it almost just looks like it is like maybe some type of camera, lens trick, because there are like reflectors along the road there.
Right.
Where, you're like, oh, okay, well, she just took a weird picture at a weird time. But if you look at the video, you can actually see the image, the things in the sky, and actually see them, pulsating with light. So definitely look at the video for sure. The right now, looking at it, just based off of what you've gathered so far, I mean, it seems like some type of phenomena that people just happen to come across, right? They just happen to be in the right place at the right time. So this is something, whereas like a lot of the phenomena, I feel like, is usually some type of personal experience and it wants you to see it. And maybe that's a little paranoid of me. But this particular instance, that's why I'm curious with the follow up. It seems like this is just something that happens to be, visiting the area, maybe. And for what, for why? So then I would think that investigating the area would kind of be imperative to these orange orb sighting. But I'm not in Arizona, unfortunately. Do we have listeners that are? What's going on with the orbs over there? Is that like a thing that you guys are getting a lot of? I don't know.
Yes. I think that this would be a great opportunity for somebody in that area to safely and legally find a good vantage point around Peralta Trail, somewhere near the Superstition Mountains,
Mm-hmm.
and do some serious sky watching and see if you can catch some of these orbs. They
Yeah.
seem to be common enough where I think that you've got a real fucking chance. And even if you debunk it and you're like, oh, there's, I don't know, some drone enthusiast or something, and they're always doing shit out here. Fine, good, great. At least we know. But I mean, this didn't really look like a drone to me. Didn't really seem necessarily like something like, floating lanterns or anything like that either. So I don't know. Hopefully we
Maybe
find out.
maybe someone listens to the show. They live in Arizona. They live close to that area, and they have a drone. And maybe you could go out there and take a video of you flying it for us to compare like what that would look like.
Sure.
I think that would be really cool.
That would
I
be
think
really
it'd be
cool.
helpful. But very interesting. Very nice. That's some good news.
Yes. Excellent newsing all around. We get a lot of these fucking orb reports now, honestly.
Yeah, it's
I've
been.
received quite a few. And well, every time I write about one, it seems like somebody pops up to say they've had a similar experience, So
Yeah, it's
they're
definitely
pretty
starting to
common.
become the hot new thing. Not that it's just trendy, just that I don't know. All of a sudden, it just seems to be kind of more in the spotlight a little bit. We've kind of talked about maybe doing an episode about it before. I think maybe it's going to be about that time.
Well, I've got a lot to talk about just, because I try to lean on things that have been sent to me directly. Anytime it doesn't matter what we're talking about. Like I try to find things that I have already done with people that I know exist, that I've spoken to
Mhm.
personally, and lean on that as much as possible. And I've got a good amount of orb stuff at this point. It's always wild to me how often people will report these things being or seeming to be intelligent, even having some kind of direct communication, even if it's more of an empathic sense or something. Like there's a lot going on. It's not just weird lights,
Yeah, my favorite. Well, I'm sure we'll talk about it when we do a full episode, but I think my favorite orb sighting is the Skinwalker Ranch with the NIDS team, and it's like a port. It like opens up into a portal and shit starts coming out of it. I love that.
Sure, you get that's how you get dino beavers. So.
Right, exactly. I love that. I love that story. I just fucking any chance to talk about it, I say let's go for it.
Yeah. Dino beavers, blue meanies. Who knows?
Yeah. Who knows? Oh man, that's wonderful. Well, we'll go ahead and we'll switch gears here. Tobias, you came up with the idea for the show to talk about to kind of theorize about ghosts. And,
Sure.
something that we do on the show a lot is, of course, sidebar on topics a little bit. And that has been one that, I think we have both mentioned in different capacities of our, um, I'd say probably controversial opinion about what ghosts might be. Or at least
Uh,
mine is anyway, at minimum, but people have all kinds of ideas of, potentially what it is. Now, when you say ghost, I don't know, Tobias, what's the mainstream idea that comes to people's head? What is a ghost to most
well,
people?
that is a great question. For most people, like just, like what do my parents think a ghost
Right,
is? Like
right.
normal people who don't care about this shit
Yeah.
usually.
Yeah.
Well, it would be the surviving consciousness of someone who has otherwise experienced bodily death.
Yeah.
So, if you're a religious person, you might talk about souls. If you're more of a new age sciency type, then you might talk about like, vibrations or consciousness or something. But it doesn't matter. It's six of one, half dozen of another. What people are talking about is some kind of persistence of personality post mortem.
Yeah. It's dead people. It's what happens when you die, I guess. Or what could happen when you die.
Yeah.
In different capacities. And I think that, when you kind of research the history of ghosts, or like you said, spirits or energy or consciousness, whatever you want to call it. Historically, I think that that's been kind of the mainstream idea of what ghosts are, what hauntings are, what the paranormal is just dead people doing their thing. And I kind of want to start this new trend on social media where we record. I guess the secret's out, everybody. We record every Monday.
What?
I know, right? I know. Isn't that crazy? It's not actually Wednesday right now. Well, it is for you guys, but it's not for us. And I'd kind of like to start this trend to, getting your guys' opinion about the episodes that we're going to record about. I think that that's neat. So, of course, I did that today. And I was very pleasantly surprised with the mixed bag of thoughts on these subjects. So if you see me post on any of my pages or on the show's pages or whatever, asking for opinions, I promise it's not because I want to come for you and tell you that you're wrong. I genuinely want to know what you think. And, of course, get the conversation going a little bit, and maybe your comment will be read here on the show. We'll see. So going back into the topic here, so the general idea, of course, is that people think, collectively, it's dead people for the most part. But there are many, many, many different theories about what these types of things could be. Um, Hauntings all look differently, right? You'll have people that be like, I grew up in a haunted house. What does that look like for that person? Um, it just depends, right? It's, doors and cabinets opening and closing by themselves, items being misplaced, all the way up to disembodied voices and shadow figures. It is a wide variety of what that can look like. Now, I know, Tobias, you kind of are, I feel, a little heavier into that side of all of this study than I am.
Okay.
How did you get your start with ghosts when you got into all this stuff?
I got my start with something so weird that was happening to me continuously that I looked into everything. I mean, it's really why I don't specialize. I investigate ghosts, UFOs, cryptids, whatever you fucking name it. If it's weird and it speaks to some kind of invisible world or higher reality, I am there. But yeah, I mean, when I was very young, I had experienced ongoing, really, throughout my life, continuously. Right, I've experienced a set of phenomena that some people might interpret as a haunting. Other people might interpret it as alien visitation or abduction, or really, it just depends on what your perspective is, which is something we'll get into a little later when we're talking about ghosts and what they might be. But yeah, I think that's probably a big part of why I'm as interested in ghosts and hauntings and things as I am almost anything else. Now, as an investigator, I got my start with UFOs, and I would do ghost stuff because again, I never really believed in specializing. But when I started, it was so fucking long ago that like reality TV was not a big thing. There weren't a lot of organized ghost groups and stuff. People just weren't doing that. It just wasn't a thing, right? So, you kind of had to do whatever you could with whoever was around you, and that was it, though. So, yeah, I don't know.
And
Hopefully that
like,
answers your question because I feel like I'm getting way off track now.
that's okay. That's good enough for me. I'll take over from here.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, and it's no surprise, people ask me how'd you get into this? My passion started in cryptozoology. Even though I'd had weird experiences, that's what I was here for. But um haunted locations are kind of easier to get to. And so, I mean, for example, right, every state has probably at minimum 75 to 100 crybaby bridges.
Oh God. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody's got the ghost light. Everybody's got, haunted roads and things like that. So, of course, and I kind of said it at the beginning, one thing that we would do in our younger days is, get super high and drive around. I mean, we wanted to get high. Like that was the goal. We can't get high at home. Our parents are there, right? But
Right.
our friends have cars, but like we don't have anywhere to go. So we would look up like different, like crybaby bridges and spooky roads, and we would go drive out to those locations, and all the while get high. Um, was it investigation? Well, not necessarily, um, because I didn't know anything about anything at that point. But we would physically go out and try to find something spooky. I mean, we would go to abandoned places and, break in and stuff. I guess I shouldn't incriminate myself, should I? But, we've got a lot of spooky places here. I live in the Dayton area. It's a historic town with a lot of ghost lore to it. So I've been, right, and I've done, and I've seen. I mean, we've definitely had some very strange experiences. Most of the time, you go out there and absolutely nothing happens, and it's super. I mean, sometimes we drive like upwards of 2 hours to go to a place, and then nothing happened, and we would be disappointed, and we've never went back. Well, I know now that it's not going to happen all the time. Like you were talking about with the spirit box with the investigations, like they're not just going to start talking to you.
Right.
So, but when I started like, officially as a real life investigator, it's because same as you, I had a string of very strange events that happened in my life, and I wasn't willing to get anything off the table. So I just wanted to kind of dive in and do it all and just kind of see what the results were. And that's why, like, when we're out investigating, it doesn't matter if I'm out on Bigfoot research, right? And I'm in an area there was just a Bigfoot sighting, I'm still taking the spirit box with me. Like, cause I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. We're still taking all that stuff with us, all the ghost hunting stuff, to the same location. So, it's not necessarily, I can't say that it's something that I absolutely never do. It's just, I don't really go out of my way anymore to go to a haunted location. But I will if someone approaches me and wants me to, right? If it's a very personal experience. I've been to. I had one person who had a restaurant, that was haunted, and they were scared. They didn't understand any of it. They didn't know what was going on. They wanted me to come out and check it out, and of course, I didn't. I had no results. They had plenty of video to show me of things that were weird that were happening, but like, I didn't see any reason for them to be afraid other than superstition. I told them that. But yeah, it's just not a big part of what I do, and while I've been doing more research into these topics, and I can't say that it's been any particular point in my career that this has happened or there was a catalyst for it, it just kind of dawned on me. What if they're not dead people? And then I found out, just how, on both sides of it, how controversial that take is, and also how popular it is at the same time. I didn't realize that there were going to be other people that kind of understood what I was saying. without taking full offense to it. And I suppose that's where belief and culture really comes into play, I feel like.
Sure.
So I guess let's talk about some of those things. And why don't we go ahead and talk about, let's just start with the mainstream, why people think ghosts are dead people.
Oh, sure. Well, I've got some people might call them cynical answers to that, but I can start with the one that isn't, and that's because from my experience, people have interacted seemingly with a phenomenon that very much seems to be the surviving consciousness of a human being who has experienced bodily death. And that's very powerful, And you can, of course, say, well, people just want to believe in something that gives them hope over a very scary phenomenon like death that is completely outside of their control. That people, are searching for identity or meaning in their life, and so that's why they pursue things like religion or interest in the paranormal, and that's all fine and good. But fundamentally, for me, what I find to be fascinating are the number of people with whom I have spoken directly who, by all accounts, have experienced something that very much seems to be some kind of interaction with a human consciousness after death. And I don't mean just random people necessarily. I'm talking about people that I know very well, myself even. Um, and in these events are often very personal. I'll talk about one of my own. I had a friend of mine who passed away several years ago. It was just before Emily and I were going to be married, and it was hard. It was a drug overdose, and I remember thinking about how I thought, I don't know. I should have done more. Was there something else that I could have done? Like our relationship had become strained after years and years of me trying to take my life in one direction and have a more sort of positive life and attaining goals and things, and him sort of more and more making his life about drugs, right? And and it was tough. It was really, really hard, because this is one of my best friends, and a close family friend. Like he was always around, and you take that for granted, right up until when you just can't anymore because they're gone. And sometime after that funeral, I started having these dreams, and they didn't seem like normal dreams. They were much more, I mean, there's no better word to use than they just seemed more real. They didn't follow the weird like dream logic of normal dreams. It very much felt like being awake while asleep, if that makes sense. And during these experiences, my friend would visit me, and we had an opportunity to talk about some stuff. And long story short, we talked about sort of how we had left things, and I know this is going to, anybody listening who wants to believe that this was just a dream that I had to feel better about the situation, I get it. I really fucking do. And you are welcome to that belief, because I have nothing that I can offer you that that is going to prove that what you think is incorrect. But yeah, he talked about being okay, and how he was okay, and how I don't need to feel bad, and all of this other stuff. And then sort of periodically after that would just kind of show up in dreams. And I remember him saying during one of these experiences, saying something along the lines of, this is how I can still see people. Like that was the only medium he had, is what he said, was showing up in people's dreams to be able to communicate with them. And yeah, I don't know. Again, if somebody thinks that's just a dream, shit, I can't prove it wasn't. So you're totally welcome to believe that, but it felt like more, and it was powerful to me. Furthermore, my wife Emily, she had a similarly powerful experience after her grandfather passed away. This was years ago, and he had just passed, and she had gone through this bad breakup, and she remembered waking up just randomly. She had gone to bed normally, but then she woke up, and she saw this figure standing by her bed, and it sort of coalesced into the appearance of her grandfather. She recognized him, and he said something along the lines of, I'm sorry that it didn't work out between you guys, but you're going to be okay. Something similar to that. And it was real, and she was sure. And then he kind of faded away, and it was real, and she was sure that she was awake. And this shit happens to people. And that's not going out to some fucking spooky tourist spot with a spirit box and playing fucking audio pareidolia with your friends. These are personal and powerful. And I get why when people experience them, they take them for what they seem to be on the surface, and that is communication with people who have passed on to the other side.
I do. I mean, I definitely understand getting the comfort and these revisitations, and I feel like that is when you got people that are very gung ho about "Oh, well, I definitely know that it's this or whatever." It's typically because they've had one of those types of experiences. Well, hold on. Let me back up for a second. Thank you for sharing that very personal. God, let me just not be an asshole right in your face.
No, I get it. I get it. It's cool.
That's a hard one. I as everybody in the that listens to the show knows, I lost my dad to a drug overdose, and it's tough. Because you could, I mean, just losing anybody's tough, but in a situation like that, you definitely question what you could have done more.
Right.
So I'm glad that you were able to get that peace with yourself, because that's a hard one. And maybe it was, something like that. I don't know. I can't tell you what your experiences was, and I can't tell anybody else what theirs is either. I've definitely had weird encounters where it had made me question it. That I thought that maybe, these were people from the other side, and nothing like massive. We had weird stuff like I don't know, my grandma's funeral. She, like, the lights were going off and on. We were like losing electricity in the building. Could it have just been a power surge that was happening at the time of the funeral, and it was just, a coincidence? Absolutely. Could it have been a presence? I know that every single person there held on to the fact that it was a presence, and
Of course.
I'm not going to be an asshole and take that away from anyone. That's not what I'm here to do. So, that's not it. But usually people believe that ghosts are dead people because the ghosts tell them that they are, and I don't think that is terrible. I mean, why wouldn't you believe that that's the experience that you had, if that's the experience that you had? I can definitely see that. And I think this just goes to show why the paranormal aspect of this type of research is huge, because fucking everybody and their sibling has had some type of ghost story,
Sure.
I mean, compared to like other, reports that you get about other things, I mean, what percentage of those are strictly paranormal? A lot of them. For me personally, I don't know about you, but I'm sure.
It's a lot. And I will say this, and I'm sure we will get into this some, but I think that the word paranormal does a lot of heavy lifting. and it's used as this umbrella term. And I do think that because of experiences like mine or Emily's or other people with whom I have spoken who have had similar experiences, people have a tendency to lump things that are probably not communication with, the departed. They have a tendency to lump things that probably are not communication with dead human beings into this category. Like they'll hear a knock in the like knocking on their walls or footsteps or something, and they'll say, "Oh, well, that's a ghost." And of course, by ghost they mean dead human being. But we don't know that, and that's where I start to feel the need to have some nuance in this field and be willing to kind of talk about this stuff very frankly with people, because again, like if we don't explain the things we can, why would anybody ever believe us about the things that we can't? And if we don't have evidence that a phenomenon belongs in a certain category, then to categorize it that way is worse than doing nothing. It's actively leading us astray. So I mean, we have to be careful.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, right. I mean, can these be multiple things at once? Yeah. Yes, they can. So let's go into some of the other more popular theories out there. Of course, stone tape theory. That is a
Oh yeah.
big, big, big one that you hear thrown around a lot. I mean, that one you hear on like, you'll hear that on the ghost hunting shows.
Oh sure. Yeah. Those residual hauntings.
Oh
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's a big one. Why don't you go ahead and explain to people kind of what stone tape theory is?
Oh boy. So if you're not familiar with stone tape theory, it's the idea that human emotional energy can be invested into things in our environment. So, largely stone. So you might hear people talk about limestone or quartz being particularly capable of recording ghostly phenomena. But yeah, that's the basic gist of it. That there is not an intelligence, but in energy that is recorded into certain types of stone or minerals, and that this energy then haunts the area in which it resides by continuously playing the events that it represents over and over again. So if you hear about a ghost, say for instance, that is said to every night at midnight walk up a certain staircase and down a hallway and into a bedroom or something, and it does the same thing every single night, and nothing ever changes, and never really, nobody ever says that they talk to it or anything, or at least, it never directly interacts with anybody. That would be an example of like a residual haunting. And one of the hypotheses to explain something like a residual haunting would be stone tape theory.
Yeah, these strange, recorded memories. And tape directly implies like a videotape, like it is just doing, and that's why you notice it, but it doesn't notice you.
Well, because it's not intelligent.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's just an energy that resides there. Now, I think people really like this one because it's just like when you explain it that way, it sounds scientific, right? It
Right.
sounds like, well, that makes sense, But I haven't deep dived that particular theory much. I mean, is there science to that at all? I mean, wouldn't if you could have a residual haunting where it does the same thing every fucking day, why are we bad at catching evidence of it?
Oh, because it's not a thing. Yeah. I mean, look, I mean, it is what it is. I'm not saying that residual hauntings aren't widely reported, and I'm not saying that they don't exist. What I am saying is that stone tape theory does not have the kind of scientific evidence that you would need to say that it is
Right.
true, and it's exactly for the reasons you've already said. There is not a high level of repeatability. This phenomena or any related, phenomena to stone tape theory or residual hauntings is not predictable enough for it to be captured. We don't have enough of an understanding, and so for this theory to be correct, we need to be able to use it to predict phenomena, and we fucking can't.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I mean, like I said, I think people like it because they're like, oh, well, that makes sense without really understanding the mechanisms behind it. Does it make sense? No, it doesn't really. It just sounds good. But I agree with you. It's not to discount people that claim to have that type of activity happening. I'm sure it is happening to some capacity. If just one person who repeats that activity happening is completely honest and just one time it's real, then it's real, period. I mean, that's just
right.
the way it is.
All I'm
um
saying is I think we need to pursue other avenues
yeah.
to explain it rather than rely
Yes.
on stone tape.
Right. Yeah. And maybe that's a good jumping off point, right? Obviously, okay, so we are recognizing that there are these weird residual situations that happen. In the dead people theory, it's because they have had some type of actual interaction with what they're interacting with that claims to be somebody that they knew, or at least somebody in history, right? That we can go, oh, this was a person that was alive at some point. And stone tape theory, it seems to be, again, it's non-sentient movement or something that happens with almost a predictability, but not enough predictability that we can catch solid evidence of it happening.
Right. I
So
mean, yeah. So residual hauntings in the stone tape theory model, they don't have any more intelligence than a movie you're watching.
yeah.
I mean, they're just a recording. But when you talk about a residual haunting in the persistence of personality postmortem model, then you might have someone who is repeating a powerful event in their life over and over again because of a sort of psychological attachment or trauma
Hmm.
to that event. And so they just become stuck, and so they repeat this thing over and over again because they're kind of trapped within this living memory, right? Which is nice from a certain perspective, because then it means that you can get them out of it, and you'll have investigators talk about being able to free these trapped spirits and help them move on to the other side. And I don't know, maybe they do, but again, this is one of those things where there's not an incredible amount of evidence. I mean, certainly not from a scientific perspective, but
Right.
really from any kind of perspective, to say that that is definitively what is causing like residual type hauntings. So who knows?
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, that I agree. I mean, this is more of, the kinds of things we're talking about on today's show is again, not to discredit anybody's experiences, but to talk about this from a scientific perspective. And we're not, nobody's saying that you haven't freed spirits or, whatever.
I
with,
think I might have during Haunted America. I
yeah,
just
you
talked
said that
about it
last
last
week.
fucking week. I'm
Yep.
not saying it's impossible.
Right.
I'm just
Right.
saying, like,
Exactly.
we have to kind of we have to examine these things as objectively as possible. Or I think, like we always like to say, keep an open mind, but not so open that your brains
Yes.
fall out.
Right. Yep. Exactly. Exactly. It's just that intuition is not. It's just not science, and that's it's okay, but that's why we do the jobs that we do, right? Is to try to bridge that gap between the two and figure out the tie, right? So here
Yes.
we are. So let's talk about another theory that you and I discussed way back when we were talking about like time slips and,
Sure.
time travelers. And because, honestly, I had never really considered that as an option until we kind of talked it through. And I'll be honest, it kind of felt good, it
It
felt like it
makes
made
sense.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly under certain circumstances. Like, well, I mean, I told you about
That
that
jogger.
pink lady apparition, right?
Yep.
Like the power walker. And I'll repeat the story here real quick. So this is when Emily and I still lived in Madison, and I was out walking the dog one afternoon. It was a totally normal fucking day, broad daylight, and there are certain spots where Bullet liked to pee. Like, he would sniff and then he would pee, but always in the same places. And he's sniffing around one of his favorite telephone poles on the corner of where we lived. This would have been the corner of Brearley and Jennifer Streets, if you're familiar with where those are in Madison, Wisconsin. And while he's doing this, I would always keep my head on a swivel because he's a real sweetheart. He's a good dog, but he gets real excited around people, and you don't know how people are going to react. And he might jump on them because he's all happy. And again, not everybody likes that. And it's a city, so there's always people around, So I wanted to be aware if people were coming up on us. And so while he's sniffing around, I'm waiting for him to just fucking pee already. I'm looking around, and I look down Jennifer Street to my left, and I see this lady. Looked like just a normal looking, like middle-aged lady, glasses, shoulder length brown hair, but she's wearing this kind of like pink tracksuit, and she looked like she was power walking. She had a headband and everything. And I just thought she was somebody out exercising. I was like, wow, she really likes pink, but this is a fashionable neighborhood, so I get it, whatever. And like, so I look at her, and then I glance at Bullet. Couldn't have been longer than like a second, just to like take a quick glance, see if he's doing his business yet, and then quick look back to see how much closer she was, and she's gone. And there's nowhere she could have gone. Like he pees, and I like drag him down the street because I'm like hustling to see where the fuck this lady could have went. Because there's no way she would have had to like ninja dive into some bushes or something. There's not a house that she could have easily gone into, not in that amount of time. There's not an alley she could have ducked down just to make sure. I like walked down and I was looking between the houses and stuff. She just vanished, right? And interestingly enough, kitty corner from where I was, like just across the street diagonally in front of the community center there, Emily had a very similar experience also while she's out walking Bullet. She saw this guy who looked like he was in like 19th century clothes, but not like they weren't weird enough where she immediately thought he couldn't belong. Because again, it's a fashionable neighborhood. He could have
Sure.
just been a hipster.
Sure.
He's like wearing a vest and like one of those newsy hats or whatever. And there's just people with handlebar mustaches and shit wearing that stuff at coffee shops.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so, yeah, like seriously. And so, like, she looks at this guy and he's kind of standing by her. And then she glances back at the dog, looks back up, and again, fucking vanished, like just gone into thin air. And so, yeah, what makes sense to me and what I will always wonder about is if that lady was power walking at a different time. And her experience was there was a guy standing by his dog at the end of the street who vanished while she was looking at him. And
Mhm.
for the rest of her life, she was like, what the fuck was that about?
And we've never heard from her, so she hasn't written
No.
into the show or anything, unfortunately, to
Right.
confirm or anything. But did she? I mean, so just because, not that I expect you to stop and just start striking up conversations with power walkers, but did she like acknowledge your existence? Sometimes you nod at your neighbor, whatever. Did she
No, well,
like
she
look up
was
at you
like,
at all?
she was too far away. She was probably
Gotcha.
a half a block away from me.
Okay.
So like that's too close to say, or that's too far away to say hello or something,
Yeah. Well, and I just ask because, another one of the stories that we covered was the ghost car situation, which I don't have all the details on right now, but just from basic memory, if you guys want the details, go back and listen to that episode. It's here. Was just, a guy was in a car with his friend and they come across an old classic car that was probably about 30 years displaced that just kind of appeared out of nowhere and then eventually disappears. Well, at some point that actually gotten up on the car and there was a woman driving it who was also wearing time period clothing. And, could she have been just a crazy collector who loved that time period? Sure. But when she saw them, she kind of freaked out. And so I thought that was interesting because it was like she also recognized that something fucking weird was going on. Like you said, with your power walker, did she have the same experience that you did? Well, this lady seemed to have that same experience that the men in the car were having,
Right.
And so we had kind of speculated a bit about maybe this is kind of where we're getting ghost sightings from, rather than them being dead people. They're people that are alive that have fallen into some type of temporary time slip. And I just, like I said, I like that so much. It makes a lot of sense. That's why we're not getting, there's like a meme that goes around and it's like, why aren't there ghosts that are like, hey, bro, I'm going to eat you if you don't get out of my haunted house? Like, we don't see people with their pants sagging down to their knees or whatever, like ghosts, that look like we do,
I mean,
basically.
mine did.
Well, she was still, a good 30 years behind if she was wearing an 80s suit.
Yeah, well, fair. I mean, the thing is though, like you see people that wear, again, like there are people who will wear like pink tracksuits around. It's
Right,
not
that's true.
it's not unheard of. But yeah, no, I mean you're right. It could have been for like the 80s, but you don't hear about 80s ghosts, do you? And that would
No.
be, yeah, that's the thing that we should hear more about. And I don't know. At least one person has seen one, and I guess that was me.
It, it's very true. Well, and you're right. Being that it's 2024 now, I mean, fashion is so eclectic. Different
Right.
people just have different styles, and fashion trends just aren't. Well, maybe I'm just old now, but I feel like they're not really a thing anymore. Everybody, like, it's pretty normal for everybody to be unique in their style.
Yeah.
Um,
I wear the same t-shirts and fucking jeans I did in the 90s, so it doesn't matter.
Right. But see, that's the thing. So somebody saw you, and that was weird, right? So let's say nobody else did that. People do, but nobody else did that. And they saw that. They could be like, oh, that's 90s style clothing, and it doesn't work that way now.
Right.
And so, maybe people do see these things and they just don't notice as much because it's not as weird because we just do what we want. We march to the beat of our own drum anymore, and that's normal. And that's good. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but you know, maybe that lady she just jogged at such a perfect pace, that it's in physics somehow, within the quantum field of reality, she just
Sure.
jogged right into a portal.
Yeah, just hit the right vibrational level to enter, to do something fucky with like fourth dimensional time or something.
Just walked right into it.
Yeah. But just for a
Quantum,
little while, and then she was back.
and then she went right back. Well, was she? I mean, if she was still at her steady pace, I mean, why not?
Yeah, who knows? Well, because I mean, you do hear people talk about stuff like that. I mean, I actually had a witness who reached out to me a while ago about an experience she and her family had at the Okefenokee Swamp when they were on vacation. This was years and years ago, and they experienced a weird time slip where they had gone out to this floating island, and then they went to go back, and the way that they had taken didn't exist. And so there, and it wasn't just them. There were other people too that were trying to go back the same way, and they're like, "What the fuck is going on here? Why has the entire environment changed?" And so they thought, they didn't know what the fuck to do. And so they like turned around and went back and then tried again. And then everything was normal. Which is
Yeah.
just bizarre, So were they in some kind of time anomaly where that particular stretch of this swamp that would have led back to, where they wanted to go was just suddenly out of time? And so it because like it's a swamp, and so swamps can change, certainly, like geographically, especially that swamp, because there
Sure.
are weird floating islands and shit. But they don't happen that fast.
Right.
It's not like you just turn around and suddenly, oh shit, there's a floating island here. So yeah, like there was just some weird time anomaly where, like it was a different time period. So the geography was slightly different.
Yeah.
I don't know, but it makes as much sense as anything, I guess.
Well, and if you go with that theory, I find it interesting because like it is clearly unpredictable.
Yeah.
Nobody's been able to perfect it, right? Otherwise we'd be able to time travel, and we're not. So whatever it is that's causing that, I mean, could be, of course we can say portals, right? That's the easiest answer. And again, it's one of those things that sounds like it makes sense, but like, what's the fucking science behind that? Is there a science to it? Well, we haven't actually opened up any portals yet, scientifically speaking. So, maybe we're just not there yet. Doesn't mean they don't exist. It just means that we haven't perfected them.
Sure.
That would be where we are now. I mean, do we have we perfected them in the future? Well, I don't know. So far, time travelers haven't showed up here. Real time travelers haven't showed up here.
Well, yeah. I mean, as far as we know, there's a lot of people
Far
claiming
as
to
we
be time
know.
travelers.
Right, right. And then, who knows what happens there. Um, but I think it is an interesting theory. I like it a lot. Like I said, it feels good. It feels right.
I think that it explains some hauntings. I don't think it explains every haunting,
Sure.
but I definitely think it explains some, like mine, where you see, like, you have like a brief experience with a full body apparition that doesn't repeat. Yeah, sure, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And it just comes and goes, and that can happen with items. That can happen with, well, like in your situation that you explained with your person there, locations.
Right.
So it doesn't necessarily have to be that a weird person pops up. It's
Oh,
just
sure.
you pop up in a weird time.
Right.
um
Well,
you
nobody
know
tries to explain those ones as ghosts, though.
No, they don't. They don't look at it that way.
Right.
So it's definitely, I feel like some fresh outside of the box perspective. Maybe that's why I like it. It feels new.
Oh, sure. Well, fresh out of the box perspective is what we're known for here on Wednesdays We Talk Weird.
That's true. So there's that. Um, but I like that one. So before, I'm going to get into my final thought and what I actually think is going on. Let's talk about not like sentient entities for a moment. Let's just talk about like poltergeist.
Sure.
Tobias, what's a poltergeist?
Well, it depends on who you ask.
Okay, yeah.
But generally speaking, a poltergeist, or a noisy ghost, as it is often translated from the German, is a type of infestation haunting, whereby a number of telekinetic seeming effects will happen in one's home. So that could be anything from household items being flung around to the mysterious disappearance of said items, or the mysterious appearance of items. So
Mhm.
people will report weird falls of coins or stones in their house. Sometimes these hauntings can be said to be violent, so people will have scratch marks, or will report being thrown out of bed or levitated, or something similar. They are explained by some people as being caused by angry spirits. That could be human or non-human, but there is a relatively more recent and perhaps more popular hypothesis that says that the root of the phenomenon is within the human mind itself, and the focal point. And there is usually a focal point. There's usually one person that the poltergeist seems to focus on, and it's said that perhaps that person is creating the phenomenon through some kind of latent telekinetic ability, some weird parapsychological effect like that.
Yeah, there's not typically like an actual, like, people aren't usually seeing full body apparitions.
Right.
They're not usually hearing disembodied voices. It seems to
Sometimes
be,
voices.
what's that?
I said sometimes voices, but like, well, if you think of like, oh boy, well, I guess it depends. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole. But if like you think of like Jeff the Mongoose as kind of a poltergeist seeming entity, because
Hmm.
there's a lot of overlap there, but I don't know. That's arguable. So okay, yeah, fine. No apparitions, no voices. Continue.
It's not Grandpa Joe, right?
Sure.
You know, I guess what I'm getting at. It seems to mostly affect objects in the home, and like you said, there does seem to be some type of focal point, and I think that's I'll tell you, I think that's good research. What I mean by that is that I definitely think that this type of phenomena is, well, I mean, it is real. I've experienced it. A lot of people have experienced it.
Sure.
That's where you get like, the TikToks of all the random shit moving and stuff like that, but without actually seeing anything else, something's happening, right? I mean, it's not all fake. It can be fake pretty easily, but I
So
don't think it all is.
it's like TikTok, but real.
But real, yeah. Yes. It is. It's like TikTok, but it's actually going on. And it does seem to surround characters that have some type of, internal turmoil, that's going on. It tends to pop up during stressful situations, which culturally will lead people to kind of believe that, like it's a demon feeding off of the negativity going on, or it's a demon causing bad
Sure.
things to happen to you, or things like that, which we haven't even really even touched on, cultural aspects of why people think what they do about this stuff. But
Girls going through puberty
that's a
is
big one.
is a
Yeah.
really popular one for poltergeists.
I, you know, as a mother to a 12-year-old girl, I completely get it.
Right.
I could believe that she is demon possessed on the regular. So
Oh,
I feel it. But no, really, I mean, it does seem to be focused on somebody who's got some kind of struggle going on, and I think there's something to that. I think that is definitely a science I can get behind to explore a little bit more, because energy is a thing. Energy is a thing, and we know that it's a thing, and we know that it affects the world around us. It's something that we can't see, but we know has a direct effect. Why we're not digging into that phenomena in particular scientifically baffles me. But I guess I know why, right? Well, there's no money to be made off of it.
that's it. Yeah.
There's more money to be made if it's a mystery. So, that's what it is. What do you think about poltergeist activity?
Well, I think that it's one of those things that, again, tends to be this umbrella term. And I don't think there's one single explanation for it.
Hmm.
I think that in some cases, I would favor the parapsychological explanation of it being a result of a human being having a telekinetic effect on their environment, be that because of some external stress or something similar. But if that mechanism is available to humanity, I don't know why it would be exclusively available to living humans.
Hmm.
And so I would be open to the idea of a deceased human or a non-human intelligence also potentially having uh, access to that same mechanism. And so I really think it depends on the specifics of the case, and there isn't one blanket explanation that we
Yeah.
can apply to everything.
Yeah, I agree with that. In terms of ghosts in general, it's certainly case by case by case, and I think I think we're doing a good job driving that point home with all the different theories we've talked
Right.
about. It depends
It
largely on what
does.
you're dealing with. Yeah, well, telekinesis I think would be marketable. So I don't know why. Again, I don't know why we're not studying that more. Um, that's silly. You know how much money I would pay to be able to unlock my telekinetic powers? A lot.
Oh God, yeah, that would be amazing. Like not have okay, how many times have you set your drink down and then went and sat down, and
Yeah.
you're like, fuck, now I got to get up, go all the way across the room where I set my fucking drink down.
Yeah.
No, you just telekinesis it over. Just think it over to you. I
I
would love
mean,
that.
that's worth $1 million easy
It
per
is
person. You know what I mean? Like
right.
I would sell my kidney for that. I'm just saying, scientists get on it. And then it's a win-win, right? Because now we've done something sciencey with the paranormal. So
Yep, we did it.
we did the thing. Um, and then the other one I just kind of wanted to quickly touch base on, try to quickly touch base on, haunted objects, cursed objects,
Oh,
and haunted objects. I already know. I know how you feel about it, but
yeah. It's
you know.
just,
So while some people think that objects or spirits can possess objects and make them haunted,
yeah.
um, I just, I take a lot of issue with it because why would they do that?
I
I
could see
don't.
if they had a particular attachment to a specific object. We're really getting into like stone tape theory territory again when we start talking about something like that, to the point where like I don't know how it would work. Like I don't know what the the physical mechanism would be whereby a spirit would be able to inhabit an object. But because, and we'll have to do a whole nother episode on this, but what what is a ghost? And by that I mean
Mhm.
like what is it made out of? How does it interact with its environment?
Right.
Like these are important questions. And so when you get into things like stone tape theory, and something that it never does a very good job of answering, because it doesn't ever allow us to really reliably predict anything, is like how that all would work. And so when you get into haunted objects, I have a lot of the same questions. Now, I wouldn't have a hard time believing that there are specific objects that uh, any kind of surviving intelligence would have an interest in, something that meant something to you, sure.
Mhm.
Or even something that like reminds you of something, or that you would just otherwise be attracted to for some reason. Like let's say I'm fucking dead, right? And I'm a ghost, and I'm haunting somebody's house, and I'm just like, oh, is that the new edition of Dungeons and Dragons? Like, I want to take a look at that. And then people would be like, is my D&D book haunted? And it's like, well, I mean, kind of. I just want to read it though, because I liked it when I was alive.
And the pages just
So,
turn on their own.
right. Yeah, it would be that kind of thing. So
Bloody handprints pop up on it every once in a while.
right. I hate these changes. Yeah, like that's the kind of attachment that I could see. I have a hard time with like the object itself having a ghost that lives in it, because how the fuck would that work?
Mhm.
But just being an object that a ghost would be super interested in, or is super interested in, it's easier for me to kind of wrap my mind around, again, if you're assuming that there's intelligence involved. So
Right. And it's like the idea of like these cursed objects are inherently evil. Like also is like, but
yeah,
then again, that's where that cultural aspect comes into play. Some people just think all this shit is evil anyway, right? That's just what they believe.
that's
That's what
what sells. That's the
right.
other issue with it,
Exactly.
is that
Yeah.
so much of it, it's hard to tell what's fucking bullshit and what isn't, because so much of it is just a fucking grift to
Yeah.
sell people something. And that can be anything from the latest fucking reality television show to people selling supposedly cursed items and shit on eBay, and like that's not real. That's just people trying to make a buck.
Yeah. And I own some allegedly, cursed objects. And also I'm a thrifter. Like I go to the thrift store all the time. I'm sure that shit is haunted as fuck. But I've never, ever, 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 ever had an experience. The ones that people tell me are absolutely haunted or absolutely cursed, um, I have put on my shelf and they have stayed there and nothing has happened. Nothing's ever happened. So I don't know. Maybe they left because they don't like me. Maybe they don't like my house. Maybe they're allergic to cats. I don't know. But it's nothing's ever happened.
Could you imagine dying and still being allergic to cats? Like what fresh hell?
I must have been terrible in my life. Yeah.
Right?
Or
Well,
you
just
weren't.
fuck me, I guess. Jesus.
Like you weren't when you died, but then you died and all of a sudden and you loved cats and now you developed a cat allergy and you're like, fuck.
Yeah, that's the
I can pet
worst.
any cat I want to now, but I can't.
They're the only ones that can see you.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you have you get ghost hives. I'm
Uh,
sure, I don't think they have fucking calamine lotion and in the underworld or whatever you want to
I
call
don't
it.
think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they don't. I don't know how they could.
No Benadryl over there.
No, you're just fucked.
You have to fucking cut favors with the Hat Man to get you some. It's
Fucking hate that guy.
yeah, he's such
I
a
don't have to
dick.
talk to him.
But I mean, I've never, no, I did have, I'll tell this story real quick. When I was younger, I just got married. I was like 19, and I worked at a fast food place. I worked at a Wendy's, actually. So that meme will definitely come in handy here. Um, and a woman walks in, and she's like dressed up in like all this, like, it's a white lady, I'll say that, and all this like African garb, like stereotypical African garb.
Oh boy.
And she's like a middle-aged woman or whatever. And like one thing that I do, and if you come up to my booth at any of these events, you'll notice that I do this. I compliment people. I will pick something out about them that I like, and I will compliment them.
Uh,
It's just me. So of course she's got this necklace, and I can see it's entirely made out of bone. And it's got this like elephant pendant on it that's also made out of bone. And I'm like, oh, that's a great necklace. I love it. She immediately like rips it off of herself, and she's like, oh, you like it? Here, you can have it. I was like,
what the fuck?
okay. She's like, ever since I got it, she said, well, I just got back from Africa. She had spent some long amount of time there in Africa. And like, ever since she's had it, a bunch of unfortunate shit has happened.
Or she's just waiting to offload that on some sucker.
Right. And I was the sucker, she's like, yeah, stuff like she ended up getting stuck there for like an additional 2 weeks because the flight was canceled, and she couldn't get another one. And she was on like some missionary or something down there. So it wasn't just like you can just leave, come and go. And her husband got to go. Now she decided to stay a day late. Her husband got to go early. Well, when he was driving back home from the airport, he got into a car accident and like all kinds of shit. Just like, okay. So I take it, and I'm like, well, being my witchy self, I put it in a Ziploc bag with salt and throw it in my freezer for a couple weeks, right? Um, and then I get it out, and of course, unfortunate shit started to happen. I lost my job at that Wendy's. I so I didn't have one. I just moved out on my own, just got married with my husband, like I said, and just a bunch of other bad shit was happening. Now, was this directly related to the necklace itself? Was the necklace actually cursed and causing these things to happen? Or was I a 19-year-old struggling to find my way in the world? I don't know. I can't tell you that. But I did take it up to my local metaphysical shop. I kind of asked them about it. They decided they wanted to take it. I gave it to them. and did things get better? Well, no, I was married to an abusive piece of shit. Things didn't get better. It was a hard time in my life. But again, was it the necklace or was it just that time period? Who knows?
It's a good thing you didn't have that necklace to deal with on top of all that other shit going on.
Right. Would have been dead by now. Yeah, it was interesting. Well, it was interesting because I like read some of the lore behind like elephants, and I guess it has affected me because I've learned that like any elephant depiction that you have, statues or pendants or paintings, it is bad luck if their trunks are pointed down. And this one had a pointed down trunk. So if you ever buy any elephant art of any sort, make sure it's up.
Trunks up.
Yep, trunks up. And so I've only bought elephant stuff with trunks up ever since.
Okay. I just like that phrase now. I'm using trunks up all the time.
Trunks
People will be
up.
like, hey, dude, how's it going? I'll be like, hey, man, trunks up.
Trunks up.
Yeah.
On your bad days, you're like, oh, trunks down.
Yeah, fucking trunks down, man.
Yeah. So, that's my story of the only potentially cursed object I've ever had, baby. So anyway, again, I don't really buy this idea so much, not to, for the millionth time, say it, discredit anybody else's experience. I've tried to have that experience and I haven't really had it yet, where
Sure.
I went, yeah, fuck yeah, it's this object, so we'll see if that happens. I'm trying still. That's why I buy them.
Oh, for sure. I mean, cursed objects, again, I think are vastly overrated. And it's just become a bit, they become a business at this point. So, yeah, I wouldn't hold my breath there. But,
Yeah.
again, like I have seen some incidents of what could be a spirit potentially interested specifically in specific items. So who knows?
Absolutely. So to jump on what the theory that I buy the most in a lot of hauntings, is, some type of sentient entity, but it's not a dead person.
Bum bum bum.
I know, right? I guess I like the term that you're using. It's the hot new term that people are using now. Non-human intelligence.
Oh, sure.
It's the new hot thing. Which of course, some people call it different things. Ultra terrestrial is John Keel's thing. Crypto terrestrial has been going around a lot lately.
Oh yeah.
I don't give a fuck what you call it. It doesn't matter. It's just another species that isn't us that has a better control of reality than we do. A better control of our reality than we do.
Sure.
you know, um, and I think that this happens a lot. If an entity comes to you and it tells you that it is somebody that my immediate thought is, why would you just believe them? Like, what, especially when we talk about high strangeness and interactions with this type of phenomena, if we believe that these things can kind of penetrate our brain and kind of read our minds a little bit, in a lot of these cases, well, why couldn't they do that and then parade as a ghost to get what they want?
Right. Well,
Um,
I guess like sure, but at the same time, I mean, how do I know you're not an ultra terrestrial? Like if that's the bar, you know, um, then
well, I
it,
mean, uh,
it
breaking news, everybody.
yeah, Ashley Hilt confirmed ultra terrestrial. Yeah, I mean, I get it, and I can't disprove it. I can't say that it's not happening, but that's sort of this like that's a similar argument to anybody who would ask you to prove anything's not happening that you can't
I
prove a
agree.
negative. So I don't fucking know.
Right. Yes. I can't prove that that's what it is. It's just that I strongly feel like I have to lean that way because I feel like it's the most open minded of all the possibilities. And what I mean by that is that it seems to check off all the box in all of these situations. Because again, I feel like our interactions with these things are very personal. And I feel like when we look at hauntings, a lot of these things, no matter what you're dealing with, can also be very personal. And I feel like it's just an easy manipulation of the human psyche for these things to do and just go, oh, it's ghosts. For whatever reason. For whatever reason, it wants you to see something fucking weird and it wants you to kind of question your reality. So it even check marks the box for like stone tape theory. Because if you are a person and you go and you stay in, an old fucking castle somewhere, somewhere else, and you see this weird person in time period clothing that doesn't acknowledge you, and that's the story, and it does it every single night, it could be the phenomena causing you to have that experience to again know that you've seen something anomalous but not give you quite enough to give you all the answers because it wants you to go search for the answers now. It checks all the
Maybe.
box for poltergeist activity. It's moving shit around your house and it is affecting the individual who is, guess what, going through a very tough time and going through, and tough times are transformative for us. And so it is just kind of feeding into that, that transformation and trying to manipulate it to a T. It check marks the box for dead relatives or friends or whatever. It just, I feel like it's the only one that can cover them all, and it kind of makes sense. It doesn't mean that I am not able to bend on my opinions depending on the situation and the experiences that I have or the knowledge that I have going forward. It's just that so far I feel like it's the one that satisfies every itch.
I understand. Like I've been reading Keel for forever, and I'm pretty
Just refreshed
familiar.
it. Yeah.
Yeah, with where he came down on it and sort of the ultra terrestrial hypothesis. And it's fine. Like I said, that word ultra terrestrial does a lot of fucking heavy lifting.
It
Let me
does.
tell you. And
For
there
being a term that nobody ever uses, man, it really does.
well, right, there are a couple of issues. I have kind of found it to be a little reductionist. Because I feel like what ends up happening, and this is almost true about any blanket explanation people like to have for things, is it requires you to sand off a lot of the rough edges to kind of smooth things along so they can fit under that term.
Sure.
And so like I said, there's something reductionist about that where you kind of have to reduce these phenomena to allow them to fit underneath that umbrella hypothesis. And so it's fine, but you could say the same thing about literally anything. If you were to replace ultra terrestrials with fucking demons,
Yep.
you could make the literal exact same argument. You would have the same evidence and the same proof.
Mm-hmm.
It just so happens that you would be living in the medieval era. Like you would be a fucking priest in the Holy Roman Empire.
Or just the Bible Belt.
Yeah, or modern day Bible Belt, sure. Rather than, you and me on this podcast. So, because like it is sort of the becoming more popular for people to use that as this blanket explanation for everything, which I get. I mean, it's very tempting to want to be able to explain things away like that and have something that sort of, we all want something that makes sense to us.
Yeah.
So if that resonates with somebody, I get it. And I can't tell them that it's wrong because I don't know if it's wrong or not. But for instance, when like just with the experiences that I've had, to try to explain all of them with a singular phenomenon or a singular intelligence or race of beings behind it, it's a huge fucking stretch. It's a huge stretch because they are so different. Now, if you are talking again about some kind of deific fucking being with these godlike powers, then yeah, fucking anything's possible. But we don't know that they exist. So attributing all of these phenomena to them at best seems premature. That's all I'm saying.
Well, right. And I think that people, just because, again, I get a lot of, when I say this, I get a lot of backlash from people about it. And I think what people don't realize, they don't hear what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you're wrong because I don't know, but I'm just saying that I disagree with what the mainstream opinion is of, dead ghosts aren't dead people, right? And so people will then take that on a personal level, and that's not the way that I mean it. And when I ask questions about digging deeper into somebody else's belief of these things, it's not because I'm doing it to make you look stupid or make you feel bad. It's because I'm genuinely curious because I want to learn.
Sure.
So it's never, this belief of mine currently it's not set in stone. It can be changed depending on, and like I said, I've had my own weird experiences that might fulfill one of these or maybe many of these different theories that we've talked about today on the show of what these things could be,
Right.
And so it's never set in stone. It's just like you said, it resonates with me the most. And I think that it just fits right now where I'm at. But of course, if I were completely right, again, the rest of everybody else would be at a job in the paranormal field and I'd be making lots of money. And I'm not,
Right.
So
well, you do bring up a really good point, and I think that it's something that everybody listening should take to heart because it's very, very valuable to have this with you when you're out in the field or even at home doing research, and that is to challenge your assumptions always,
Yeah.
always, 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 because I think that there are narratives being applied to phenomena that are likely incorrect, and if like the most charitable interpretation of these narratives application is that they're coming from a place where people want to believe something. So, and I touched on this earlier. So you've got people who very much want to believe in afterlife and in ghosts as being this surviving human consciousness. And so everything that happens to them then becomes a fucking ghost. It's and not necessarily everything, but everything weird. So if they see an anomalous glowing orb, or they hear a knocking sound or footsteps, or experience weird coincidences or whatever in their life, then they attribute that to this ghostly phenomenon, and they attribute this sort of intelligence to it. They apply this narrative that whatever is happening is as a result of this surviving human consciousness. And I don't like to tell people that they're wrong, but that's wrong. Like that is not a good way to go about understanding things, at least not understanding them, authentically. And so it's something to watch out for. We have to really question what the root phenomenon is. We have to question our assumptions. We have to question what things really are, or how they can exist, what allows them to exist, how they interact with their environment, how they interact with us. Like, all of that is super important. And if nothing else, I think that the ultra terrestrial hypothesis, it forces the issue on that a little bit more, and it does make people ask uncomfortable questions, which we need more of. So like that's something good.
It does. Uncomfortable doesn't have to be bad.
Yeah.
And, I wish that we would let go of that. Personally, I just feel like, none of these theories that we have are worth burying our flag on. Do you understand how long we have been researching the paranormal? Forever, since we've been here.
Right.
Just the same as, like, just death in general, just, looking back at that, like, do you know how long we have tried to, stop death from happening? It hasn't happened. It's not going to happen. We're never going to escape it. We're going to die. Every single one of us is going to die one day. Can that be said for the paranormal? Are we going to be researching this forever and never ever get an answer? I think it's time that we kind of accept that that's a very real possibility, that we just may never figure it out because we've been doing it for so long and we still haven't yet. It is. Now, is it worthy? Does it mean we should stop? No, it doesn't. It just means we should get better and better. And I feel like we have, if you go back and read theories about different things, I mean, obviously, we've definitely worked out these theories a little bit better because we've ruled things out, right? We've learned more about our environment and quantum mechanics and how things work, and it kind of to kind of make some sense of it. Will we ever absolutely get there? Not in our lifetime, for sure. I mean, that's what I think. I think I'm gonna die, and there's still gonna be the paranormal. I think that's both. I think both of those prophecies are gonna come true. I'm definitely gonna die one day, and there's definitely still gonna be the unexplained phenomena happening. So.
Yes. This
But
is why I tell people to have other hobbies.
Right. Yeah, please do. Yeah, because you'll go well, you can see it happen. Look at dead researchers, man. They all go fucking off the walls. That's what I say about Keel. He really goes off the walls.
Yeah, they get like weird and bitter in their old age too, because they feel like they wasted their life. And it's like, dude, nobody was stopping you from having like a family and other hobbies and shit other than you. Okay.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. I mean, just look at I encourage everybody to read fucking Einstein's autobiography. Super interesting. Super sad. He was a very sad man. Honestly, it went nuts. Because that's just what happens. That's just what happens. So yes, definitely have other hobbies that feel fulfilling to you. Because this is not going to, at the end of the day, probably fill that hole, right? Like something else might.
Relationships. Have important relationships.
Please.
Volunteer in your community. Fucking, I don't know, go to church, do whatever you need to do to have a sense of fulfillment in your life, because you are unlikely to get it here.
Yeah. None of us are doing anything groundbreaking, and, well, I can't say none of us are doing anything groundbreaking for sure.
Everything I do is groundbreaking.
Everything. Yep. You've only ever done anything original. I agree. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, there is value to this, and that's why we do it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you won't get the same sense of fulfillment here, or at least you're unlikely to, that you could get somewhere else. And so I really highly recommend people to diversify your interests.
Yes. Please. Yeah. Absolutely.
If you put all your eggs in one basket, well, fuck, don't drop that basket.
Right. The basket gets heavy and it breaks. I mean, that's what happens. It's just the way it is. Like I said, don't bury your flag, in one spot and go, well, this is it. This is the thing. Because again, if you were right, then you would be able to look at all of us and go, I told you so.
Right.
But nobody is having any humble pie today. Not until December when the Flat Earth show comes out. So
True.
That's just at the end of it. And Tobias, I think that, you've kind of stated your opinion on it. You think it's a mix of a lot of things.
I do. I think it's like fairies, and I've said this so many times. Everybody wants to have this opinion on what fairies were or are, and the reality is that word was used to describe any number of phenomena that were not fucking understood at the time. And so it covers a lot of ground. It's everything from UFOs to ghosts and hauntings to weird interactions with seemingly non human intelligence. And so to try to define fairies as a singular fucking phenomenon is a huge waste of time because it is a bunch of different shit. And you have to look at each one of those things individually to even begin to understand the whole. And I think that's where we're at with ghosts. I think it's where we're at with pretty much everything: UFOs, cryptids, you name it.
Yeah, I agree. And I hope there's some huge strides that are made. That's why I do this. I want to contribute to those big groundbreaking discoveries, and maybe it will happen. That is why I do it. I haven't lost hope that it will. But it's a waste of time to be like, well, I'm right and you're wrong.
Yeah, but for real, I am right and other people are wrong. So.
but really though, that's true. That's a good point. So everybody else is wrong. Tobias is right. There you have it. He knows it all. So I don't know. I encourage everybody to go check out and get involved in the conversations that are going to be happening on Mondays across all the social medias. If you need those links, they're down below in the description. But even just with this, go back and revisit the Monday post about what other people thought ghosts were, and go see the different perspectives. It's really fun to check that out and kind of learn a little bit from your peers, and maybe you'll see something that changes your mind. And I hope you do. I hope you do. I hope I do.
Oh hell yeah, yeah. The mark of a truly honest intellect is having the ability to change your mind when provided with new information. And I think that that's important. And I think that's something we should all be aware of and try to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I'll tell you, I didn't start this thinking that at all. I didn't even know what ultra terrestrials were. I thought they were dead people. I thought ghosts were dead people, like everyone else.
There you go.
It's changed a couple times, but yeah. So, any final thoughts on the ghost topic before we end the episode?
Oh boy. Yeah, I guess what I would just want to stress is that, again, like, the purpose of this is not to invalidate anybody's experience. And if it makes you feel any better, I've had experiences where I am convinced that what I was interacting with, or at least what it very much seemed to be, was a surviving human consciousness. And so believe in your own experiences. They're yours and not anybody else's, and nobody can take them away from you. And so while I think challenging your own assumptions is important, just remember that nobody else's opinion can ever change something that happened to you.
I think that's beautifully said. Did we fucking steal fucking Jerry Springer's thunder? You know how he had that little nice talk
I
at
love
the
that
end?
show. Yeah, that was the best.
That's you now.
It is. I'd
You're
love to be the new Jerry Springer. That would be amazing. He was a big deal.
channeling the spirit of Jerry Springer. He was an Ohio native. He was actually the
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
mayor of Cincinnati or something.
He was. Good for him. That's right.
Anyway, not to be the asshole that ruins it, but calling it out there. So I agree with you wholeheartedly. I hope that people found some comfort in your words. And of course, if you guys have any anomalous experiences you want to share with either of us, we're always open to it, no matter what it is and no matter what you believe it is. We are not here to tell you what you experience. That's not our job. But we're always happy to take reports either way. So there's that. But with that being said, guys, we'll see you back here next Wednesday.